Hello everyone, thank you for joining me today. This is Taliesin McKnight, and today, this video is by request. In today's lesson, I will talk about working with ancestors, ancestral work. Now, I do speak on different topics, different traditions. As of lately, I've really been focusing on hoodoo or conjure. And I do seem to have a lot of viewers that are into that, but other topics should be coming up. But I had a request, actually a few of them, wanting to know, how do you work with ancestors? And that is what we will talk about today. For someone that is... before you begin practicing magic, it's very important to have some kind of guides and protectors, to have some kind of guidance and protection from the spirit world. So the spiritual realm could be a very uncertain place. And it's always good to have powerful allies on the other side. And this is one of the main reasons why ancestors are so important. Your ancestors are those that are connected to you, that have an interest in your safety and welfare, that are on the other side. So part of this has to do with having some sort of guides and protectors, allies in the spirit world. So when you start working with the spirit world and working with conjure and spells and things like that, it's good to have someone on the other side that is willing to give you some guidance and protection. It's like moving to another country and not knowing anyone. If you already have some family, some people around you to support you and to give you guidance and help. So ancestor work is basically contacting, opening up communication with the dead, with your loved ones. So say your grandmother, your grandfather, let's say your dad or your mother. People that loved you in life can be contacted for help. People that were close to you and loved you and cared about you can give some sort of protection and guidance on the other side. So, that is the subject for today. So you have guidance and help. Another thing is that it's important to show respect and veneration for those that have come before you. And hoodoo is an African-derived form of magic. And like other African traditions, such as voodoo, lukumi, just like other African-derived traditions, ancestor veneration is extremely important. You know, the practice of voodoo, which is different from hoodoo. In voodoo, your work begins with your ancestors, and also with Legba. In Santeria, or lukumi, as its preferable term, it all begins with working with the egun, working with your ancestors. A lot of espiritismo was blended in there, and working with the boveda to work with spirit guides and ancestors. Now, spiritism is also a very rich tradition of working with spirit guides, of working with your ancestors. So the idea is to have some kind of guidance and protection on the other side, those that love and care about you. Now, this is a different tradition from all of that. I was just mentioning some different traditions. Conjure, or hoodoo, as it's popularly known, is no different in that way. Ancestor veneration is very important. Respect for the dead. Now, today I will go over how to work with ancestors. I'll go into the construction of a basic altar. And I'll also give you a basic ritual or technique that you could use. And again, the difference between just studying something and actually practicing it. This is a hands-on work. Before I ever take students, which I really don't have a lot of time for, especially right now, I'm really busy. But when I do take students, this is the first thing that I always tell them to do. This is their first work. So there's several things to consider with working with ancestors. First of all, what is an ancestor? Different people will give you a different definition. The way I'm teaching it, your ancestor is someone with blood ties to you. It is your blood kin. Okay? So, while with other people that may be this really vague thing, the way I learned and the way I teach, your ancestors are blood relatives, period. Okay? They are connected to you through blood. So your ancestor altar is for your family dead. So as tempted as you may be to add your family cat or your college friend that recently passed away, no, this is for family. If you work with saints such as Saint Expedite, you work with San Simon, if you work with spirits like Black Hawk or whatever, those spirits should have a separate altar. You don't mix up your ancestor altar with a bunch of saints and other things. This should be for your ancestors alone. And what do you do if you're adopted or if you don't know anyone? In that case, I mean, we live in a modern world where we have Ancestry.com, we have the internet. There are ways that you can learn about your family history. And in our modern society, we have mostly lost touch in our modern world with our roots, which gives all the more reason why we should try to develop this, reestablish this connection to who we are and where we came from. One more important thing that I wanted to note when I'm talking about what is an ancestor. Blood relatives, preferably. Second of all, you only want to work with helpful spirits that you trust. You don't want to work with someone that's negative. For example, if your aunt was always causing drama and meddling in your relationships, that's probably not someone you want to work with. If your great-grandfather was abusive, maybe that's not the best person to work with. This is a circle of people that you trust that loved you and are willing to help you in some way. Ancestors include both people you knew in life and those that you may have never met also. So how do you know, if you've never met someone, how do you know if they have good moral character, if there's someone you want to work with? One thing that I always advise folks is to get a spiral notebook and a pen and write down their family tree and go talk to your parents. Go talk to people in your family. Gather information, stories, birth dates, when they died, how they died, to tell stories so that you could gather information on your relatives so you could sort of gauge if they were of good moral character, if there's someone that you're really wanting to work with. So that's the way that I learned, and it's the way that I'm teaching. Going into a side issue, I've had so many people say, how did you learn Hoodoo? Well, I was not raised in it, basically studying like everyone else, but also the most important thing is to talk to old style workers. What I would advise is for people to join groups on Facebook, whatever you can, to get in contact with practitioners. And if you could find old school workers, I'm not talking about people that learned in a course online. I'm talking about old folks that have been practicing conjure for a while. Talk to them on the phone. Talk to some of these old workers, and you'll see things that you never saw on the internet. A lot of these old workers never even worked with oils or colored candles. I mean, they use lamps, but then again, a lot of these people are not, they don't have blogs. They don't write blogs. These are old workers. A lot of the people you see teaching hoodoo on the internet really are teaching this really watered down, commercialized hoodoo because they learned on the internet. It's a lot better to learn from old style workers. Now I'm going way off topic here. So, your ancestors are blood kin preferably. If you really feel the need to add a family friend, whatever, that's fine, I guess. But really blood kin. And preferably those of good moral character that you trust. You don't want to open up communication with someone negative. So that's what ancestors are. And again, this is about getting some people to help you on the other side. You're delving into the spirit world with some kind of guides and protectors. People around you that care about your best interest. Now here in a moment I'm going to go into the theory, how do you do it and all of that. But just one more thing I wanted to say. Here's an example of how this is important. I like to pick people up off the side of the road if they're stranded. I don't always do it. Sometimes I don't have time, but I try to be a good guy. But if I saw my niece or nephew stranded on the side of the road, I would definitely stop. I would help them go buy a car part and help them fix it. So family members you usually care a little bit more about, as opposed to some other spirits that are neutral. So when you start delving into the spirit realm and working with spells and all this stuff, you have some people on the other side that care about you. So how do you work with ancestors? You do this by an ancestral altar. An ancestral altar. Okay, so an ancestral altar is a sort of place or location that you work with them. And when you do ritual in the same spot over and over, it sort of builds up some sort of energy or whatever. So for your ancestral altar, you will need ancestral altars in hoodoo are very basic, very simple. It's not elaborate like a lot of the stuff that you're seeing posted on the internet. It's very hard to learn hoodoo on the internet. If you talk to old style workers, usually it's very basic. A lot of people use a white tablecloth. White, if you really want to analyze the symbolism and all that, I guess you could say white is a symbol of purity. Whatever. So you'll need a little table or a nightstand and put a white tablecloth. This is not very expensive, so you may have to buy a few items. You'll need a small table or a nightstand. Okay. You'll need a white tablecloth. Again, white is a symbol of purity. And then you'll need some items connecting to your ancestors. Now, one thing that's very important is the idea of magical links. What some traditions of magic call magical links. It is something that links to a target. In the case of ancestors, these are some sort of objects that connects with your dead. Family pictures, okay? Family photos are very basic, very important. So if you have a picture of your grandmother and grandfather that passed on, if you have a picture of your uncle or whatever, family pictures are a very basic, very popular thing to put on your ancestor altar. Now, one thing that you do not do, and this is found in different traditions, one thing you never do is you do not put a picture of a living person on your ancestor altar. You don't do it. So if you have a family picture with your dead grandparents and your mom that's still alive, don't do that. And the reason for this taboo, I think, is pretty obvious. It's like sending a signal that this person's dead. Don't do that. You know, you might say it's just a superstition. Whatever. Why tempt it? Why do you want to tempt it? In my view, just don't do it. You never put a picture of a living person on your ancestor altar. So family pictures is a link to your ancestors. Also, any kind of physical object that they owned in life. The idea is there's still a connection between them and their possessions. So your grandfather's favorite watch that he carried around, you might put that on the ancestor altar. Or your great-grandmother's locket or necklace, that may be put on the altar. So you'll put items connecting to the ancestors. Okay. So we've got three very simple things. A small table, white tablecloth, which you could buy at Walmart or wherever. So, small table, white tablecloth. And on that table, since it's an ancestor altar, you'll add pictures, if you could find them, items that they owned in life. If possible, try to get these things. If you can't, then substitute. People always ask me, can you substitute this or that? And my response is preferably not. But if you don't have a choice, you don't have a choice. So if you have no pictures, you can't find any pictures, and you have nothing that belonged to them, then, then that's the situation. But ideally, items linking to them, family pictures, maybe your grandfather's watch, whatever, if you can get it. Also, lots of people like to add a candle. A candle to give them warmth and light, symbolically. So a candle, white candle. A lot of people like to add a glass of fresh water and a white candle to their altar. So I don't know how traditional that is to Hoodoo historically, but I know in Voodoo, which is a different tradition that may have kind of filtered into Hoodoo. In Louisiana and stuff, a glass of water and a white candle is very popular. I use it, but I don't know how traditional that is. So, pictures, items. I like to use a white candle and a glass of fresh water. And that's basically it. You can add to this all you want. Lots of people like to have fresh flowers. Some people say that it's a good idea to have something living on the altar, such as flowers or whatever. So that's basically it. So you have your altar to your ancestors, and this is just a place to connect with them. Now, most conjure doctors, most hoodoos are Christian. The majority of them are devout Christians. And this is something that a lot of people don't understand. And with our modern eclecticism and everyone wanting to practice hoodoo, you're getting all these other things blended in. But most hoodoo practitioners, and they may not even call it hoodoo. If you say hoodoo, they're like, what the hell's hoodoo? You know, they may call it conjure or just doing work, whatever. What we call hoodoo, many of them are devout Christians. In fact, some of them are very spiritual, deeply religious people. You know, a hoodoo is very much like a prophet, a holy person. And often they're very close to God. So anyways, getting a little off topic here, but you know, it's important to understand that this is very religious, a lot of these people, very deep Christians. And they see themselves as spiritual workers. You know, you have the prophets, Elijah, Elisha, Moses, Jesus. Well, maybe not Jesus, but a lot of the prophets, they look at them as conjure workers. So anyways, okay, so since there's often a lot of Christian influences in hoodoo, it's very popular to have a Bible on the altar, and a lot of people like to add a cross or a crucifix, if you happen to be Catholic. Now, the cross has more than just regular religious significance. The cross is also the symbol of the crossroads, which the crossroads is a symbol of the intersection of two worlds. You have the physical world, and then you have the spiritual world. And this is where the two worlds meet. Okay? So a lot of people like to add a cross and a Bible to their altar. Something to consider is that, you know, you should put whatever religious items that link to your ancestors. So, if your family was Catholic, you would put Catholic items. If your family was Baptist, you may just have a Bible. But if your family was Muslim, I'm just throwing this out there, it might be better to have a Quran if your ancestors were Muslim. Or if your ancestors were Jewish, you might add a Tanakh, a Jewish Bible. So, your altar is not for you. It doesn't matter if it resonates with you. Your altar is for your ancestors. So, just as a sign of respect, you should usually place items that resonate with them. It's like you're putting a home for them. So, if you're pagan or whatever, and your ancestors were Baptist, probably not a good idea to call them up and they see a giant pentagram. They're already going to be freaked out that you called them up. So, whatever religious tradition your ancestors were, I would go with that. That's just my advice. Because whatever tradition says this is something to connect with them, and it's a way to make them comfortable and feel at home. So now we have covered the ancestor altar. At its most basic, a small table, white tablecloth, some old family pictures. And that's it. If you want to add a candle or something, that's fine, or flowers or whatever. It's important to have items that connected with them. Pictures, something they owned. And this is a link to them. The items they owned in life are believed to have a connection with them. Okay. So, how do you serve the ancestors? First of all, it's a good idea to cleanse the space. Nowadays, again, people are mixing all kinds of things. A lot of folks nowadays like to use a sage stick. Very simple. You can buy it at any metaphysical shop. Just sense the area to drive away impurities. You might bless some water, sprinkle it around. You might use holy water, whatever. Just kind of cleanse the area. Say some prayers for it to be cleansed. And you'll add these items. Now, how do you serve them? Offerings are ways that we honor the ancestors. Offerings. What kind of offerings do you give? Food and drink offerings are very popular. Not all people do this. Some do. Food and drink offerings. Now, you may ask the question, why would I offer food to a spirit that can't eat it? Going into the whole theory, there's different theories. Some people believe that it's the life force within the food, or that somehow they are able to partake of the essence. Whatever the case may be, food and drink is very popular. Items that they enjoy in life. If your grandfather smoked Camel cigarettes, non-filtered, add a pack of Camels to the altar. Maybe add your grandmother's favorite perfume. So things they liked in life. If your aunt liked Folgers coffee with sugar and no cream, then you'd put that. And that's a way to give them things that they liked in life. And that's a further way to go under this whole magical links idea to connect to them. Okay? Again, this is not your altar. This is their altar. It doesn't matter what resonates with you. It's important to make them feel comfortable and at home. So you'll put on what they like according to their likes and tastes and preferences. If they like Folgers coffee, put Folgers coffee. And many people report that sometimes they'll get dreams or whatever, and their ancestors will correct them and tell them what they do and don't want on their altar. So anyways, so food offerings, drink offerings, or perfume, or cigarettes, or whatever, these are just ways to honor our ancestors. Now, really, just like in life, it's the thought that counts. You know, it's the thought that counts. You're just showing them that you love them and you're remembering them. Food offerings, I would leave food offerings for 24 hours. No more than that, though. So basically, the next day, you'll dispose of it. Preferably, throw it outside. Throw it in the yard. If you're really anal and you don't want to mess up my yard, well, then you can put it, I don't know, out in the woods or something so birds can eat it. I mean, it's just a suggestion, okay? So you can throw the remains outside. Some people like to put them at a crossroads. That's fine. I'm an animal lover. I just don't want someone's dog to be eating in the middle of the road so it would hit them with a car. But that's just me. So those are offerings that you offer. Now, most people like to work with ancestors at least once a week. Some work with them every day. For me, that's a little much. It's good to have a regular routine. Every week is really good. Monday is very popular. Monday. Again, I don't see how this is historical or traditional. If anyone has any evidence that this is actually historical, then that's fine. I would like to see it. Because it seems to me like the Monday reverence is something that trickled over from Louisiana or New Orleans from Voodoo. But anyways, many people use Monday. I like to use Monday. It's what I'm used to. So every Monday, I'll honor my ancestors. But again, I don't see how this is historical historically traditional. And regional practices differ. Different families practice differently. Individual workers practice differently. So there's no such a thing as a voodoo catechism or dogma. Different people work different ways. But once a week is great. I like to use Monday. So, every Monday you can do this. Now, how do you do it? How do you work with your ancestor altar? Very simple. You simply place your offerings on the altar. You might recite some prayers. And then all you do is you just call out their names. Mentally call out. Try to call out to them from the other side. That's the hardest thing for most people to get down, is the actual calling. But after you do it over and over, eventually there's a connection established where it becomes really easy. But at first, that's really difficult for most people. Simply put your offerings out and call them. You know, John Michael Smith, you know, grandfather, grandmother, you know, I call you here, whatever. Just speak from the heart. You call out to them. Now, when you feel their presence, you show them the offerings. And then you sit down and you may talk to them. Speak from the heart. Tell them about your problems. Ask them for guidance and help. Maybe update them about what's going on in the family, in your life. And you may just try to remember them, have memories. And it's always important to listen for any kind of communication that may come over. You may ask them to give you a message in your dreams, and that's really popular. So basically what you're doing is you're establishing a line of communication with the dead in your family, so that you have guides and protectors in the spirit world that care about you and love you. And second of all, you're beginning to open up that line of communication, and you're learning how to work with the spirits. So this is very important for a beginner. Very basic. I think it's one of the first things you should learn. It's one of the first things you should practice. I refuse to teach someone if they don't have this down. I mean, if I do it person to person, which I really don't have a lot of time for. Okay, so that's basically it, and that is, this video was by request, and that's Ancestor work. Now, before you go, I have some brief announcements. First of all, there's a new radio show that we have. Below in the description box, I'll give a link to my new channel with the radio show. Please subscribe to that channel as well as this one. Subscribe, y'all. So we've got a new radio show coming out on Tuesday. Now, this last show, it took us a while to upload to our other channel, but we just uploaded tonight, and now I'm uploading this. So anyways, the radio show's going on, and I'm building a website, and I have a web store. There's so much going on right now, so I have been pretty busy. But I at least wanted to cover this topic, Ancestor Altar. Now, in our next radio show that we're doing, Vayu and I will be discussing spirit communication, which will be going into different spirits, different traditions. So that's coming up, y'all. Anyways, that is how to work with ancestors, a little bit of a discussion on that. If you disagree, or if you have a different method, or if there is any experiences in your life that you would like to share, really anything you would like to share your opinion. Your opinion is respected. Please go into the comments section below and share what you think on this matter. Anyways, thank you for joining me, and have a great day, y'all.